Hi guys, welcome back to another episode on Raincore Exotics. Today I'm co-hosted by Papaya, and today we have another herp talk. If you like these herp talks, please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff down below. And today we're going to be talking about something that goes farther than ball pythons, and that is morphs in the reptile hobby. Now morphs, much like with ball pythons, usually 99% of the time, it's just basically a different paint job for the animals. As you can see, Papaya looks much different than a normal ball python. She's much brighter and her pattern's kind of whack, and that is because of the morphs she carries. And of course, things like crested geckos, tokay geckos, different monitors. You know, if an animal's been around in captivity long enough, people have tried or have found different morphs or different color variations, pattern variations in those animals, right? And I personally love morphs. I think they make a very beautiful animal more beautiful. They make people that are otherwise uninterested in the animal become interested. You know, most people see a ball python and they see a snake and it's cool. However, they see something like a killer clown, you know, and they look beautiful, the coloration's whack, and that, you know, it's a head turner. They're like, wow, that's a funky looking snake, you know, because in the natural world, anything colored like that would probably have venom and it would probably kill you, right? However, with different morphs, they look absolutely beautiful, and it's still the harmless potato of a snake underneath all that color, right? So I personally love morphs. However, I think it's important to look at things you love from the other side of the fence, right? It's important, especially nowadays, not to live in an echo chamber, and you know, you'll find unanimous agreement in the hobby that morphs are, in general, a good thing. However, today I want to provide a couple of counterpoints. One of them I think is the most valid and one of the most concerning things that we all should have in the back of our minds, especially if we're breeding these reptiles. However, we'll get to that at the end. So one of my first things I want to talk about is that morphs kind of tend to inflate collections. You know, if people have, you know, if someone buys a ball python, a normal ball python, they have a normal ball python, right? They can buy another ball python and it will still be almost the same animal. But because there's so many different morphs, you can buy a pastel, or then you can buy a spider. You can buy a lesser. You can buy, you know, and all these snakes look different. And believe it or not, ball pythons, they have different personalities. Not all of them are potatoes, right? And so you have this difference in color, different in pattern, and all of a sudden, even though they're the same species, there are different animals. And this, I believe, tends to develop into like a collectivist mindset of animals, you know. It comes dangerously close to hoarding. Of course, I'm not saying that if you have a large collection of reptiles that you're a hoarder, because, you know, hoarders, I believe, this can be a topic all of its own in another video. But however, hoarders, the short summary is that hoarders are not able to guarantee or maintain a certain health standard in all their animals. I've seen a lot of big YouTubers that have huge collection of reptiles. However, they keep their reptiles in nice, clean, enriching enclosures, and I think that that is not something a hoarder would do. You know, people have set up rack systems, and however those racks are kept clean, people go through and they clean out, you know, their waste, change out water, and they give a certain health standard. Hoarders would probably not do that. They would collect, and neglect. So, however, you know, in the short skinny of the first point, even though, you know, you're interested in ball pythons, instead of you just getting one and being, you know, that being it, morphs kind of encourage you to kind of overstretch, buy more than you can handle, more than you can afford financially. More than you can financially, because sometimes these morphs can come up pretty pricey, which leads to my second point, morphs are usually worth more money than a normal snake of, that species. For example, a normal ball python costs $40. I saw a particular morph combination that I really liked on Morph Market that was going for $20,000. 20 smackers, 20 big ones. That's a lot of money. And in the back of my mind, when I'm seeing all these prices, when I'm going through Morph Market, it becomes less of the animal, the individual animal, and more about the price, right? I know that banana clowns go for a certain price. I know that desert ghosts go for a certain price. And I'm not really looking past that price and looking at the individual animal, right? It's like going into a relationship and only seeing the other person for the amount of money they have in their bank or their physical appearance, right? You're not really looking past that to see what that animal or that person has, right? So it kind of flies in the face, and it says that you really don't care for the animal, you care more for the investment. Of course, when you're trying to buy a $20,000 animal, it becomes much less of a pet and much more of an investment. I understand that. However, if you're paying $20,000 for an animal, you can bet your butt that you're going to protect your investment and provide the best care you can. Most likely, if that particular animal falls sick, you're probably going to take it to the vet as soon as you can. But it leaves a bad taste in people's mouth, and people tend to see it as profits over the individual animal, right? And that kind of tends to, on the higher end, people tend to care more for the animal, take them to the vet, all that good stuff. However, animals on the lower end, things like a normal ball python, with no morphs, that goes for $40. If that animal gets sick, it's a $40 snake. Most people won't take it to the vet, right? So it comes with pros and cons. However, I think the cheaper, more accessible snakes are unfortunately get the short end of the stick. And now the last point I want to talk about is probably the best point and point of most concern for any animal that has morphs, and that is the genetic health. In the long run, we've come to understand that spider and certain albino lines and ball pythons tend to have issues. We've come to understand that certain genetics in leopard geckos also tend to develop issues like enigma and like lemon frost. I think leopard geckos develop different types of cancers and tumors and stuff. So I think that in the long run, we need to understand and kind of balance how we go about bringing morphs up, What I mean by that is we need to responsibly understand what a morph does and if it affects much more than just color and pattern on an animal. If, I would not feel comfortable talking with somebody that sells lemon frost leopard geckos without warning anybody that buys one, right? An animal that is prone to cancer and tumors, I don't think would be very healthy for a breeder to sell without disclosing that information, right? And in the long run, the genetic health with these morphs, let's say we get a new reptile out of the wild and we breed, we establish a small stable population, and then we find that there's a morph involved in this animal and people are trying to isolate that morph. Usually that's done through line breeding, which basically means you're breeding back the offspring back to the parents, and that can be done once or twice. However, it wouldn't surprise me if that's done 3, 4, 5 times, and at that point, of course, this is all hopefully a very this is an imaginative situation. But if you breed back 4 or 5 times when you're line breeding, that means that there's going to be a lot of genetic weakness in that line of animals going forward before they are diversified and bred out again. However, if they're associated with a morph, then they'll be kept breeding back to that morph and their genetic weakness will remain. What that might cause is things like cancers. This line of animals might be more prone to cancer, might be more prone to infections, respiratory infections. It might be more prone to neurological issues, things along those lines. So when we're trying to get morphs established, it's important that we keep line breeding in absolute moderation and very low, very low amounts of line breeding should be done to bring a morph to market, simply because we don't want that line of morph, that genetic that morph to be have a higher disposition towards disease. I don't think it'd be fair to the animals produced, and I don't think it'd be fair to the consumers that are trying to buy into that project, right? All right, well, and yeah, I kept bringing it back to ball pythons over and over again throughout this video. However, I think ball pythons are really the staple when it comes to morphs because there's just so many. However, there's a large amount of animals out there that do have morphs. King snakes, rat snakes, leopard geckos, fat-tailed geckos, crested geckos, tokay geckos, the list goes on and on. So, take me, I'm inserting ball pythons. However, you can insert that into whatever other gene that, or whatever other animal you're interested in, right? Alright, well, this has been a shorter one. If you like these herb talks, please like, subscribe, comment, leave a comment on what would you like next theme to be. And I'll see you guys in the next one. This has been Papaya, and thanks for watching.